Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Ambassador Wing and Afternoons with the Ambassador. And it is such a pleasure to have all of you with me this afternoon. And today, I've got a wonderful panel with me. We're changing things up just a little bit because our good friend AWTA is out today. He is having some medical stuff going on. And AWTA, if you see this, my friend, we are all praying for you. Hope everything goes well, and we'll catch you on the flip side. But today I've got my good friend Mountains of Elysium, my normal co-host on Wednesdays, but I've also got Fiona Wolf, Mladen Kulik, and Project Storytime. And today we're going to talk about dark cinema and why we love it. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to let y'all do a brief intro. If you got a channel you want to plug, or if you're on Twitter or whatever, plug away, and then we will jump right in.
I'm good. Like, pretty much my Twitter's just there for me to have epic.
My Twitter handle is already on the screen.
My channel's not up and going yet, so I'm still working on it.
Oh, that's the wrong thing.
I'm on Twitter myself, and I have a channel, Mountains of Elysium, which I'll be uploading some more stuff to it in the near future.
Okay. And very quickly to the chat, Darth Astor and Speaker for the Dead, because everybody else that's come in the chat's here on the panel. Good afternoon, gentlemen. Thank you for being here. And, you know, I was thinking the other day after I did my upload for my Batman Forever video and everything, I was thinking, you know, this Schumacher cut seems to have a darker tone. As I got to thinking, what is it about darker toned films or tones that have a heavier feel to them that attracts us so much? I was like, this will make for a good discussion on a stream, and well, here we are. So just to go around the bend, what are some films just that pop into your mind when you think of maybe darker cinema and everything and what have you?
Well, like I was saying, oh, yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, okay. The first that comes to mind are something mostly horror movies, like the John Carpenter's The Thing. That one.
Yeah.
Also, sci-fi film with Ethan Hawke and Uma Thurman, Gattaca from the 90s.
Oh, yeah.
That was a good one.
Yeah.
Jacob's Ladder is also pretty dark.
That's pretty dark, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. I think most of David Lynch movies counts, like Lost Highway, Eraserhead, Elephant Man. So that's are my picks so far. I'll let the others speak.
I mentioned Event Horizon earlier, so you know that's one of the because when it comes to darker cinema, I want to be able to see light contrasting with the dark. So that was one of my favorite movies because of that. Even Gattaca had the main character's drive to get into space. He was fighting against all sorts of various systems that were trying to keep him from reaching the stars. So I can appreciate that.
Mountains Project?
I suppose for me there's a couple, and it's mainly in the science fiction when I think about it, like The Matrix, Total Recall, Running Man, Mad Max, Blade Runner. I think the science fiction allows you to almost explore more outside of the modern day political systems, where you can actually have discussions when it's set a couple of steps away from where we are, but you can still talk about the issues.
Project, what about you?
Most of the films I was going to have been mentioned already. Yeah.
Okay.
As far as like some of the, I mean, you have it here in the background. Joker was a pretty dark film, and it's probably the most recent of any film that had that was that successful and had darker tones to it.
Yeah. Well, the reason I picked those three for this thumbnail and everything, I picked Dark Knight, I picked Empire, and obviously I picked Joker, was because for me, those really, they give you the opportunity to peer into the abyss, but not for the abyss to peer back into you.
Right.
And, each one in their own way really does have a darker tone, does have a heavier tone to them, for the simple fact that for me at least, exploring the human psyche is probably one of the darkest subjects that you can contend with. And if you look at Dark Knight and you look at Joker and maybe certain elements of Empire Strikes Back, they do deal with the human psyche for the simple fact that, let's be candid, the human psyche can sometimes be very frightening. I mean, we are sometimes afraid of our own mind. And Speaker for the Dead brings up another couple of really good ones, Alien and Aliens. And the interesting thing that everybody has hit upon, it's either sci-fi or horror that oftentimes gives filmmakers the opportunity to be
out of the box, to explore more themes in the movie.
Yes.
Yeah, horror and sci-fi, they just lend themselves to, because they are inherently more fantastic in nature. It allows for the directors to explore these darker elements in a more, without having to be that as realistic.
Oh, well, I guess, would Enemy Mine also fall into that? Dennis Quaid opposite
Danny Glove, not Lou Gossett Jr. Yeah, I guess you could say that. I guess that could be considered a darker tone film.
Well, because to me, it kind of dealt with like the fear of like the other type of thing from both ends, from both the human and the alien end. Mm-hmm. That's what I remember anyway.
Yeah.
Would you consider Logan's Run a darker film?
Yes, I would actually. For the simple fact that you're dealing with the idea of population control, and anybody who reaches a certain age ends up getting offed, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
So, and just real quick to the chat and everything, the True 31 and Star Wars Santa, good afternoon. Also, MB Geek, let's talk. It's good to see you as well. MB, I'll DM you here in just a minute, bud. So, folks, go ahead and continue.
So, since we are talking about human psyche, it got me thinking about Pet Sematary and how we deal with grief and loss, and how some things should stay dead and not meddled. Also, the human psyche about losing someone and want vengeance to basically the movie I'm talking about, The Crow. You root for the main character to kill everyone because he lost the love of his life because some idiots came in and killed them. So that's my input on human psyche.
Mm. What about Pan's Labyrinth?
Yes.
That's a great movie.
Yes, it is.
And sometimes these darker movies, they are more effective. I think that's the reason why some grim dark books don't really get it nowadays. You have to have balance. The innocence of the kid in that movie contrasted with like the absolute evil of some of the adults around her.
Yes.
I like that movie, but not as much as everybody else. I might need to rewatch it. That's a good movie by Guillermo del Toro. So let's see what.
I think a lot of our fascination with this goes back long before cinema. The stories around the campfire about dragons and stuff. And it's something primal within us. And I was doing since the ambassador asked me on, I did a small bit of research, and they're saying much of this is the surrounding darkness and fear draws communities together. And it draws something primal about our human family. That it allows us to connect with others, allows us to, like we said earlier, stare at the darkness in a safe way. And I suppose there are two ways. Sometimes we look at the dark character, see how they got there, and hope for justice. And there are some dark cinema where you just want to see the world burn, like 2012 or Knowing.
Yeah, and the interesting thing is, you're right. I forget if it was Mountains or Milan who said this. These darker stories do go back to something that's very primal within our psyche and our culture. When we were sitting around campfires and telling ghost stories or telling like really gothic or heavy stories, and if you want to think about it, I know we've brought up some more contemporary horror movies, but if you think about like movies like, or even the books like Frankenstein or War of the Worlds or any of those other older novels and everything, or even Dracula, those were very dark and very grim and very atmospheric and everything. They kind of they kind of put you on edge and everything. There's a lot of tension to them. So, there is something very, very primal about darker and heavier stories and everything in cinema and even in media in general.
And the theater background, and it's just an inherent fact. It's more fun to play the bad guy, and I think it speaks to kind of the same thing. It's just it speaks to something innate.
Yeah, because for me, and I'll talk about this a little bit, and y'all can bounce off of this. Right? When I watched Joker a few months ago, there was just something very unnerving and very unsettling about that film just from the outset. And this portrayal of the Joker is not something we've ever seen before. And it's almost like a weight that sits on your chest for I think it's 2.5 hours or 2 hours of the runtime of that movie, and just won't get off of you. And it almost, when you're done, you feel emotionally drained and everything afterwards. And I think that's one of the great things about films like Joker. And, The Truth brings up another good one, American Psycho with Christian Bale. And it's just, the movie, in terms of Joker, it was so surreal. And the fact that you didn't know how much of what Fleck was saying was true, but the fact that his mind was so dark and so warped and so bent, it's just, it sets you on edge to think that a person could really be, for lack of a better term, that deranged. So.
And also just the fact that, Arthur, he's constantly trying, and the world just seems to hate him, and it's very uncomfortable from the very beginning.
Yeah. Well, and one that was brought up just a few minutes ago was Event Horizon. I think it was Fiona Wolf who brought up that one. I remember seeing Event Horizon for the first time, and I was like, geez, this movie puts me on edge. And the crazy thing is, I watched a review of it not too long, a few years ago, and they said there was even an even more extreme cut of it and anything that really amped up the brutality and the gore. And I'm thinking,
oh no, it didn't need that. What was in there was already disturbing enough. Like baby bear.
I know.
I just want to mention, yes, there is the extreme version, but it's somewhere buried and forgotten. So there is no chance of assembling that cut and putting it with the movie.
Damn.
I'll show you the video where certain YouTuber explored that there was a darker version, and it's difficult to find it because it was buried somewhere in Romania, I think. So all the footage will be damaged, so there will be no use bringing them back.
That sucks. Drive me nuts.
Also, I want to mention, since you brought up the Joker, that weight we constantly feel that we're gonna snap sometime. You mentioned in the beginning the filmmaker Joel Schumacher, his movie with Michael Douglas, Falling Down, 1993, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
He loses it. He goes
Falling Down, and also there was another one from the 70s, Dog Day Afternoon with Al Pacino.
Yes, Al Pacino, 1975, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, it is. Based on true story, from what I remember. That one. Anyone can chime in if they want.
Well, the other reason I wanted to talk about this today is because with the way Hollywood is going right now, everything seems so, for lack of a better term, saccharine and sweet and all happy-go-lucky and what have you. And I think, honestly, it's for a lot of people. Yes. Thank you, Storytime. Appreciate that. Yeah. Sanitized. I think movies like The Dark Knight and like Joker and like the horror movies that we have brought up, particularly the more psychological horror movies that we have talked about. And there's one I'm surprised nobody did bring up, unless you did and I just missed it. The Exorcist. That for me has got to be one of the most disturbing films I've ever seen, and I've even seen the director's cut of it.
That's one I find difficult watching again, because I saw it once a couple of years ago, and it says this is, for my faith, it's too close to the bone. I often find when I look for dark cinema, I stay away from the demonic, because saying that for me is that's too real. Darker tones, yes, I'm into that. Like Equilibrium is a film I love watching, and it's dark, but it's not supernatural dark.
Yeah, and I can understand that. And just very quickly to the chat, DJ Odyssey and Loki, Mornings of Mischief. Good afternoon, gentlemen. Good to see you both. Thank you for popping in as always, and thank you for the support. And if I didn't say this earlier, Classic Comics, it's good to see you as well. Glad you could pop in for the chat as well. And I don't know which movie you were referencing.
I think Classic. It was referencing The Exorcist.
Okay, that might have been the case. So, yeah, it is good to see all of you here this afternoon. Truly, I appreciate you all being here. But, I think the public is really hungry for, I think in certain aspects are hungry for darker cinema, because it's not that we like to go to that place in our mind or in our psyche, but I think sometimes it's very visceral. There's a release for it. There's that catharsis that takes place and everything. When we finally get to see films that really delve into the human psyche. And also to the chat, I'm sorry I missed you a minute ago. Brian Hill, Master and None, good to see you. I hope you're doing well and everything. Been praying for you about your whiplash and your car accident. So I hope you're resting up and hope to see you soon, bud. But and honestly, speaking for myself, I mean, I like more upbeat. Okay, thank you, Classic. Appreciate that. So, okay, thank you for the clarification. Just speaking for myself, and y'all chime in and everything once I'm done. I think we all there's a part of our psyche that kind of yearns for that catharsis, for that release and everything when we go and see these darker and heavier films and everything. Because when we walk out, we feel like there's a weight that's been lifted off of us, or we have a better understanding of ourselves in a manner of speaking. So, any thoughts on that, guys and lady?
Yeah, well, honestly, I find the opposite problem in books right now, because my kingdom for something uplifting, optimistic, everybody's down in the dirt with like the heavier, darker stuff, but they don't balance it with anything against something lighter. Mm-hmm. The reason why some of these more popular horror movies or science fiction horror movies work for me is because there's a compare and contrast. It's not heavily one-sided, everything's shit, we're all gonna die. There's some semblance of hope in most of these things. I mean, that whole crew in Event Horizon got together to try to save each other while the Doctor was going nuts. He fully embraced the darkness while everybody else was fighting it on some level.
Mm-hmm. Very true. So, gentlemen,
I think in many of these movies, we look for the hope in the darkness. In many cases, somebody might have been going through a bad life and they step up, or people come together when things are rough. And I think it's even going back through history, it's what people look for in prophecy, that there's something beyond the night. There's a dawn coming. And I think that's where a lot of us come from. And it could also be a contrast. As things get safer, we look for the darkness, because there does need to be a balance. It can't be all saccharine, or it can't all be darkness. There needs to be a bit of a balance in all the genre.
Yeah, I would wholeheartedly agree with that. Anybody else? Your thoughts?
I just want to bring up, while it's not necessarily a darker movie, it did spotlight the society at the current time. And I think you said it in the chat on the stream, Ambassador, The Great Dictator by Chaplin.
Yes. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And the last speech, because I recently watched it a couple of days ago, the last speech basically sums up everything before and currently in our society.
I would agree wholeheartedly with that. And for those of you that might have HBO Max, if you do, they have The Great Dictator on there. If you've never watched it, or it's been a long time since you've watched it, I suggest you do so. And fun fact and everything, Great Dictator is actually referenced in Pearl Harbor. It's on the movie marquee when they're going out to dinner and everything there when they're in Hawaii. So, nice. Just a little fun fact. Anyway, I think the other, and Milan, you hit upon something. The fact that, well, all of you have hit on this. The fact that there needs to be the balance. It's okay to go dark. Sometimes it's okay to go heavy, but you need to have that prospect of hope. And I think in some of these movies and everything, if you think about it, of the three I've got up here on the screen, and there are others as well, two of these very much end deliberately on a down note. Mm-hmm. And one is Dark Knight and the other is Joker, because they both end on very down beats. Empire. Say one more time, story time?
Yeah, the bad guys win at the end of both of those films.
Yeah, essentially. And with Empire, it's there. It's I don't want to say it's a complete downbeat because there is that prospect of hope in the movie.
Yeah,
at the same time,
that's a promise of hope near the end. So it's not really a downbeat.
But if you think about the majority of Empire,
yes,
the rebels get their butts whipped.
Yep, rebels lose at the very beginning of the film.
Yeah, yes, exactly. And Luke loses his hand. He finds out that one of the most tyrannical people in the entire galaxy is his father.
But spoilers!
This movie is 40 years old, story time. If anybody doesn't know the big twist by now, there's no helping you. Go crawling back underneath the rock and stay there.
Are you saying Darth Vader is Luke Skywalker's father? No.
Yes, I am. But let's just dissect that for a minute there. You grow up an orphan, and Luke and everything. He's not completely an orphan. He's being raised by his aunt and uncle on his dad's side, except he doesn't know who his dad is, except for the little dab that his aunt and everything and uncle.
He knows who Anakin is.
So. Well, the truth is, even Owen and Beru didn't really know who Anakin was. They had that one interaction with him there on Tatooine, and as far as I know, they never saw him again. Because I don't think he ever went back.
It is hinted that they knew because, when, Luke runs off and Beru's like, you can't keep him here. He's too much like his father. And Owen was like, that's what worries me. Mm-hmm. It's hinted that they do know who he is.
Well, and they could even be alluding to the fact that of the event that happened when, because Padme could have even told them, or maybe one of them overheard anything Anakin during his rant during Attack of the Clones when he says he killed all those sand people.
Or Obi-Wan told them when he gave him the baby.
That's a possibility too. Who knows? But the truth brings up something very interesting. Deep down in our subconscious, we want to engage or are attracted to violent acts that occur in the real world. Maybe that's why we're drawn to disturbing subject matter in films. It's uncomfortable to say, but I think there is some truth to that.
Mm-hmm.
Because
just like that truth, because the famous movie Nightmare on Elm Street, the writer and director based the character of Freddy on his experience of some bully that bullied him. So he took that and made a horror movie based around him. Wes Craven.
Oh, Wes Craven?
Yes, Wes Craven, Nightmare on Elm Street. He was bullied as a kid by some bully that he based the famous character Freddy Krueger. So that's the whole subconscious. Either you experience something in your life that attracts you to write something dark, so that you lift off that burden that you carry inside. Mm-hmm. In some form of expression, either a movie or in books sometimes. Hell, Pet Sematary is one of the darkest books that even Stephen King is afraid of to give autograph, because it was based around his experience that almost happened, and everything else is basically imaginary. He almost lost a kid, and what that felt like if he actually did, and he wrote it on the book.
Yeah, and I recently, it was back last year actually, I went and I watched the remake of Pet Sematary, and I was like, I walked out of there and I was like, geez, can that end on any more of a downbeat? The whole family except for the baby is turned into a freaking zombie. So, well, MB Geek Let's Talk brings up a good point. Sometimes it's fun to watch the bad guy win if done right. And that's very true. Mm-hmm. There's something I was going to bring up. If you think about it, particularly towards the third book or third movie or anything, Lord of the Rings gets very, very dark.
Mm-hmm.
tone and tenor and everything. And Tolkien did that deliberately and everything. And I was watching a lot. I watched all the special makings of, and there was this term that they brought up. It's called a eucatastrophe or a catastrophe. The eucatastrophe is basically the turning point of a catastrophe where everything starts to swing back up and it goes back in the right direction. But if you think about from the point where they're all going to Helm's Deep, almost to the final battle and everything in Return of the King, that whole portion of that trilogy is exceedingly dark.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's like Gandalf said, Sauron is tightening the noose, and you almost feel that noose around your neck in a lot of ways.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think for a lot of us, we hope for the best, but we plan for the worst. And these movies that we've all brought up, they present these scenarios of what is the worst that could happen and how the heck do we get out of it. I think that's another attractor of these, because we want to see how did these people survive the worst case scenario. I think that's why initially, and I say initially, Walking Dead was so popular and so successful, because we want to see how these people got out of these situations when everything went to hell. Any thoughts on that, guys and lady?
No, I'd agree. It's the hopes. I think it's the idea of the hope spot, that even in the darkest of night, that you have hope of the dawn. I think it's like Gandalf said, look for me at the coming of the dawn on the third day. Mm-hmm. So I wonder if that's part of it too, that even with darkness, there's hope for light.
Yes.
Well, and like what, who is that? Alicia was saying?
Alicia?
I think and the thing is, the reason why some people might think good characters are lame is because modern Hollywood, most books nowadays are all about deconstruction, the deconstruction of the heroic. People don't know what actual heroism is, so when they look at Lord of the Rings, it's like a new novelty, even though it's been around for like almost 100 years.
Yeah, I actually wanted to touch on that, how everything is being deconstructed right now. And it's broken down and broken down and broken down, and most writers are not talented enough to put it back together when they're done deconstructing it.
That's why Astro City works. It reconstructs everything.
Well, for those of you that might be aware, up until recently and everything, I'm going to probably be finishing this online. I was working on a master's and everything degree in divinity, religious studies, to simplify it. And something that we had discussed was the whole concept of deconstruction. And, I even related this to Last Jedi and everything in terms of what Rian Johnson did with Luke Skywalker. Everything, I was like, I get what he was trying to do, but I think he did it badly. Because if you want to deconstruct Luke Skywalker, okay, fine. But you don't turn him into a cowardly wimp that has absolutely no spine or backbone.
Mm-hmm.
That for me is a proper deconstruction. And, deconstruction has its uses. I wholeheartedly believe that if it's done well, if it's done by somebody who's competent, and this is not going to turn into a Johnson bashing session. Far from it. That's not the point of this stream. But, deconstruction and darker cinema or darker media go hand in hand in a lot of ways. And I think in terms of movies like Joker, that was a deconstruction of the character Joker, going down to the core of who he was, why he did it, and just leaving you there at the bottom of the pit. And I think, honestly, that's why Joker was so successful. Do I think there were other factors that could contribute to its success? Yes, of course I do. But the fact that Joker ends on such a downbeat, and he's stuck in that mental asylum. He is quite really.
It's one of those. It ends on a downbeat, but for him, he's happy now. Mm-hmm. So it's portrayed very cheerfully, which makes it all the more disturbing.
Yeah, and that's very true, because he's finally where he feels he belongs. Mm-hmm. He's finally where he fits in, because out in the regular world, he never did. He never really fit in, ever. And that's unfortunate and everything for people like Arthur Fleck, like the Joker. And very quick to the chat and everything. Happy Dinosaur 8000. Good to see you, sir. Hope you're having a good day as well. So thank you for popping in. Glad to see you, as always. But
sorry, Ambassador.
No, go ahead, Mountains, please.
As we were talking about Lord of the Rings, the character of Boromir himself was deconstructed, a hero who fell to the darkness, but then found redemption. I mean, I think that's a good way to do it. If you do pull someone down who was good, don't make it. I said, don't destroy him. He had flaws, was pulled down, but built himself back up. True sacrifice.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's the reason why even stuff like Berserk and Black Company work for me, because they break the characters down, but they build them back up again. They give them Puck with moments of light, not Riddick, but God, what was that one kid? But he's in there too. He actually is a blacksmith and everything now, but it took the guy like 30 plus years to get Casca back on line to being healthy again. But when it hit, all the fan base was like, holy crap, there she is. She's kind of fixed again. They just forget to put in the build up. All these movies and everything else, all these popular stuff that's going on with books and everything, they deconstruct, but they don't know how to rebuild. That's it.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree with you. I truly do, because, as I just mentioned, you tore Luke Skywalker down, but you did a shoddy job at putting him back together, which was unfortunate. Which is why so many people
put him back together.
They did a bad job at putting him back together. A very bad job. They used third-rate crazy glue. But
and honestly, since they didn't build the whole sequel trilogy all in one block, they had a Mass Effect problem where you had part of a story, but you didn't go all the way through, and then you basically face planted multiple upticks in arcs, and everything got jumbled. I'm just saying, like, don't look at them if you want to know how to build a book or a movie.
Yeah. Well,
or a video game franchise. Thanks for reminding me of Mass Effect.
Oh, I like Mass Effect.
I love the first two games. Third was disappointing.
Why was that third one disappointing?
The third wasn't bad. I enjoyed it, but yeah, the ending was kind of lacking.
My biggest issue with with Mass Effect 3 was how hollow the decisions I made in the previous games felt, and the fact that it was just which light show do I want to see?
Yeah, essentially.
That's disappointing.
Yeah. Although I will say this I'm not going to get this word out, so please forgive me. I'm going to sound like Cobra Commander on Robot Chicken. The synthesis ending was not that bad. I think it was just executed poorly.
Everybody's Soylent Green.
That's the one I chose when I finished Mass Effect 3. The straight ahead you go.
I chose red because I wanted to say, you know what, Anderson was right. You know what, frack everything. Nothing matters anyway. Boom.
Oh, I blew up the Reapers my first playthrough.
It's what gets me though is like Mass Effect was also based off of some older stuff like Traveler and God, what was that one other game? Shoot, I'd have to look at my Steam account. But everybody takes stuff from everywhere, but sometimes they don't synthesize it very good.
Right.
Nice one, Vienna. Very nice. Well, I
got it.
There's one genre that we haven't really touched upon very much, and that's the dystopian movies. Those are very, very dark, very heavy. And one that comes to mind, and y'all may beat me to the punch here, is 1984 with William Hurt.
It's been a while since I've seen it, but those sort of movies do hit hard.
Yeah. Well, how many? You don't have to show your hands, obviously, but how many of you have either read or seen 1984?
It's been a while, like late college, but I have seen it.
Okay. Mladen Project?
0. I want to actually read the book first before I watch the movie.
That's fair.
The same boat.
Okay. Well, for those of you that may not be familiar, I'll give you the extreme cliff notes.
I mean, I know the basics of it, but I've not read it.
Dang it, I should have included a link for this. There's actually a channel I should have referenced, but I didn't.
Actually, as in ground, there is a college movie based on 1984, which twists the whole thing on its head.
Really?
Where they take Big Brother and he uses the all-invasive eye and pisses him off. He calls him, "Hi, I'm so happy with your boot on my neck," and he kept up the positivity that he annoyed the authorities so much they switched off the camera, and then he wrote the manifesto to liberate the people.
Wow.
It's a great movie.
Huh.
If I try and find the link, I'll put it in the chat.
Nice. I'll definitely check that out, Mountains. And hey, by all means, tweet that out if you want to, because I think there's a lot of people who'd be interested in seeing it. I'll promote the crap out of it. You know that. Well, and Happy Dinosaur brings up another one that leans towards the darker element of cinema, and that's the post-apocalyptic. If I can get it to come up, the post-apocalyptic. Nice lady. The post-apocalyptic films. Yeah. Let's see. Night of the Comet, the Omega Man. I'm surprised nobody brought this up. I Am Legend.
Yes.
I had to stop watching that movie because I was like, no, the dog.
I understand. And Fiona, you brought up another one, Star Control. Yeah.
Yeah, Mass Effect.
Darn it! Why didn't I think of that? The Star Chamber. Does anybody remember that one? It was kind of a dystopian. It's from, I think, like the 1970s. So it deals with a very authoritarian government agency that kidnaps people that are being subversive to the government or something like that. So,
would you consider Nausicaa in the Valley of the Wind?
In a Wind Called Amnesia. I remember that from way back. But I was able to watch that because that guy helped uplifted other, humans with a sense of hope. So it wasn't completely. That's the thing. Like if I watch post-apocalyptic dystopia stuff, I want to have an underlining theme of hope running out throughout the whole thing.
Yeah. Yeah. And Classic Comics brings up a very good point. I was actually going to point this out myself. Omega Man and I Am Legend are based on the same story, and I think the original story is called I Am Legend.
Yes, it's
I believe it is. Yeah.
There's also Vincent Price film that is also based on I Am Legend. I forgot the name of it.
Great Mouse Detective.
Very funny. Jen's and everything. Jen's Pender brings up an interesting. Not that one. Dang, damn it.
Yes, that one.
Mad Max 1, 2, and 3. Yeah, those would definitely fall into the post-apocalyptic genre and very dark, particularly Beyond Thunderdome. And I'll say it, I love Thunderdome.
That's the one with Tina Turner in it, right?
It is, yes. And Purple Valkyrie and everything she brings up, Last Man on Earth with Vincent Price was the best version for her. I can respect that because let's just face it, anything with Vincent Price is a win.
Yes, it is.
That man.
Oh, sorry, Ambassador, I cut you off
No,
there.
go ahead,
there was another movie by Rutger Hauer, Omega Doom, set in a post-apocalyptic world where robotic and androids were trying to rebuild a society, and man was a myth.
Wow.
And it was just about the two natures, where the two natures of man, the destructive and the wanting to build, were found in his creations. It's been years since I've seen it, but I do remember it being quite a good movie.
Oh. Yeah. Well, and Classic Comics brings up another good one. Dragon Slayer is an underrated dark film. The princess is sacrificed to a dragon, and the hero fails to save her. So,
looking at my collection here, what about The Secret of Nim? That's a pretty dark movie.
Yeah, and that's actually the story project and everything. That actually brings up an idea for a video for a stream. Is all the really dark and let's be candid, somewhat disturbing animated films from the 1980s. Because Secrets of Nim, Watership Down, I'm sure there are more.
But again, those still had a balance of characters with genuine warmth and light.
Yes,
like that mom went through hell to fix it, save her kids.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And that's an aspect of feminine nature that a lot of the man with boobs trope ignores. It's like, oh, you shouldn't be a mom. Being a mom is horrendous.
That's problematic. You can't do that now.
It's like, no, you know what? That's the reason why, even with my own series, with my crazy space opera superhero stuff, I'm like, no, moms are fucking awesome. They protect their kids, damn it.
What did Ellen Ripley do? She went for her surrogate child. She fought through hell to find her in the darkest way. A very dark movie, but yet.
Yeah, and Purple Valkyrie brings up American Psycho. Believe it or not, folks, that is a movie I've never actually watched. I think I'm going to need to change that because I actually like Christian Bale. I like his stuff.
Sorry, I forgot.
Go ahead.
There is a movie, Daybreakers from 2009. It deals where Americans won. Not Americans. Vampires have won, taken over, and the humans are basically livestock for them to eat.
That's the William Dafoe movie with right?
Ethan Hawke.
William Dafoe and Sam Neill, if I'm not mistaken. I think he's also in it.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, I think Sam Neill was in that. I do remember going to theaters and seeing that. I actually really liked it.
Yeah, I liked it as well.
There was another one I was going to bring up that slipped in my mind. What was it?
Yes.
Go ahead, Malay.
You go. No, you go first to see if that.
Okay. Well, the one I was going to bring up is actually a very recent one, like just within the last couple of years. Avengers Endgame, or not Endgame, but Infinity War.
Oh, that's not the one I was thinking about.
Yeah.
My
theater was dead quiet after that movie.
Yeah.
Sorry, the 2006 post-apocalyptic movie, Children of Men. It's very dark.
That's a great movie.
Yeah, and there's that. We brought Pet Sematary a couple of times. There's another one that I saw that my heart absolutely positively sank at the end. The Mist.
Yes.
Yes.
They changed the ending from the book, but even Stephen King admits that's a brilliant ending. Why did I think about it? It's heartbreaking.
Absolutely, just rip your freaking heart out and show it to you. Just a few minutes more. If they had just waited a few minutes more, just stayed where they were. And that guy, the father, oh my gosh.
Sometimes you try and put yourself into people's shoes, but that
I don't think
you don't want. I mean, I find it really hard to rewatch that movie, even though I think it is absolutely brilliant.
And
what was it?
Go
there was this one movie. It was the one guy who played Chekhov in the Star Trek remakes, but he played Odd Thomas. And when I saw that movie, I'm like, my heart broke apart at the end. I mean, it was like the whole good versus evil thing, but some of the contents were really dark, like how some of those ghosts died. Yeah.
Anton Yelchin, by the way.
Yes, Anton Yelchin.
Here's one, and there have been rumors there's going to be a sequel. I hope it does happen. Does anybody remember a movie from 2009 called 9?
Yes.
The animated one?
You mean 9?
Or?
Yes.
It's just called 9. It's actually it was a CGI film, pure CGI. It deals with a post-apocalyptic Earth. It deals with these characters called the Stitch Punks, and they were created by the scientist who was able to fracture his soul and put a portion of his soul or personality into each one of these Stitch Punks.
Oh,
you know what I'm talking about now?
I think so. Yeah.
The voice cast for it was incredibly good. Christopher Plummer was in it. I think Elijah Wood was in it. There were so many. I can't think of them all off the top of my head. You know what? Give me just a minute. I'm going to look it up. Y'all talk about yourselves for a minute while I look this up. Because this was a really good one.
I'm surprised that we haven't brought up.
Want to share?
I haven't brought up which thing?
Yes.
Yes, that's the one.
2006. Yeah.
Okay. I have seen that actually.
I love that movie. But yeah, the majority of it is so dark and so macabre, and yeah. I can't see the cast. Does the top one Christopher Plummer? Christopher Plummer, Martin Landau, John C. Reilly, Crispin Glover, Jennifer Connelly. Wow. Elijah Wood, Alan Oppenheimer, Tom Kane, Helen Wilson, Fred. I can't pronounce his name. I'm not even going to try. Tom Kane. Wait a minute. The guy who's done the Master Yoda's voice for Clone Wars?
I believe that's the same Tom Kane.
Wow. Okay. I did not know that. Thank you, Project. Appreciate that. Yeah, I went to see this. I went to see that in theaters or anything with my one of my best friends or anything for my birthday, and yep, Tom Kane. Yep, Clone Wars. Hey, there's no. Okay. All right, Project. Appreciate you pulling that up, bud. Good job. Good catch. So,
that's what I do.
Yeah, well, you do it well. Thank you. Truly.
I was actually thinking of another movie. It was made for TV by the BBC. It was a film called Shreds from the 1980s. If any of you have seen it, it's about in the event of nuclear war, and they looked at a society going over about a decade. It was one of the bleakest movies I have ever seen, and it is a really tough watch, but a really, really good movie.
Mm-hmm. Mountains, you remind me of another one. 28 Days Later. I'm not talking about the sequel. I'm talking about the first one, 28 Days Later.
Yes.
That thing was like a
Danny Boyle movie.
I went into the cinema. I said, I didn't want to know anything because I knew it was something along the lines of zombies, but I didn't want to know. and it was a great movie.
Excellent. Yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I haven't watched it in a while. I need to rewatch it sometime. So, anyway,
actually, the one thing from him I did watch was Sunshine, where they had to reignite the sun. Dark stuff, but at the end, look, there was light at the end of the tunnel. They literally saved the human race.
Mm-hmm. Very true.
And that goes back to the balance that we were talking about. Like,
yes, it does. Very much so. Anyway, well, folks, I think we're going to go ahead and wrap up here, unless y'all got something else that you want to discuss along these lines.
Not really. I suppose I just wanted to bring a quote from George Carlin, just a bit of humor about the darkness in our nature. It was, "I'm never so busy I can't stop to enjoy someone else's suffering."
It's a good one.
Which I always thought it was a funny quote. Well, it was in his stand-up show. So,
yeah, one of those comedians I talked about not too long ago and everything. He could bring the pain, but he could make you split your sides, but he could make you think.
It's the balance, bringing humor with the darkness. Maybe not hope, but humor. So you don't have to have hope and darkness. You can have humor and darkness. Something
Very
to.
true.
Oh, Truth 31 there. Oh.
Well, to be fair, I'm mostly science fiction line of things, so there's some traditional horror movies I have not watched.
Oh, there's another one that brings to mind, Rosemary's Baby.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, in Truth 31, it's something personal. I've never seen Sophie's Choice. I never have. I've heard it's very good, but I've never seen it. So, but thank you for bringing it up. I appreciate it. So, anyway. Okay, folks, I think we're going to go and wrap up. I want to thank my panel, Mountains of Elysium, Fiona Wolf, Mladen Kulik, and Project Storytime, Josh Momini. Guys, this was a lot of fun. This was a really good discussion. I hope y'all enjoyed it. I know I certainly did and everything. And not necessarily this particular topic, but this might be something. Pull y'all together again. We'll do a deep dive on another genre or topic in terms of cinema sometime. So, but just a real quick update on the channel. I will be back this Saturday night at 7:30 Central Time with another live stream. And this Saturday, we're going to be talking something a little more fun and got a different lineup for my panelists and everything. The topic's going to be action movies and the women who love them. So I hope to see y'all then. Josh, I can already tell you're going to be trouble.
That's what I do.
Let's just put it this way: this woman appreciates some of those old movies because guess what? Sometimes, even if they don't want to admit it, having a super over masculine male kicking ass and saving your ass does have a certain set of appeal.
Women didn't go to see Aquaman because of the plot.
No. Based on the amount of floating ad books on Amazon, no, they go.
So, and but yeah, that'll be this Saturday night, 7:30 Central Time. Hope to see y'all there. And then just a quick update for the next couple of Saturdays. Not this Saturday, next Saturday, the 15th. I'll be having my Transformers, the animated film from 1984. We're going to be doing a watch party for that. And then on the 22nd, we'll be talking the V miniseries from the 1980s. So if y'all are familiar with any of those things and you want to be a part of the panel, I've already got a few people who have already reached out to me and said, hey, we want in, but I've still got room as always. So. But guys, this was a great conversation. I appreciate y'all being here. And before we go, do y'all have anything you want to plug, or you just want to say goodbye?
Read more Space Opera 2020. There you go.
Okay.
Adios.
All right. And to everybody in the chat, thank you for being here. I appreciate every last single one of you. And y'all have a great week. I'll see y'all Saturday night. And until next time, this is the Ambassadors signing off.